crazy, stupid marketing show, the show where we talk about some of the crazy, stupid things that people do in marketing and how to not do that by using solid marketing fundamentals. And so today I won't say we're going to like completely deviate from that, because for sure we're going to talk about marketing fundamentals. But one of the things we're going to look at today is this relationship between sales and marketing, and how the lines between the two have become somewhat blurred, especially in the digital environment. And so we'll end up talking about some of those foundational principles, which will allow us to get a little bit of clarity on what matters about that and what doesn't matter about that. But the truth of the matter is there are marketers and salespeople who are experiencing this blurred lines of sales and marketing and trying to figure out how to navigate that in terms of building your brand. And both of these departments are heavily involved in brand development, and there's some problems that can happen with that when these two departments are not aligned. So today we're going to talk about some of the things that are being blurred, our personal experiences of that, also your personal experiences of that. So if you are joining us live, please let us know, pop us a comment and say, hello, I'm joining you live, or something more clever than that. Also welcome. But get into the conversation. What are your experiences of sales and marketing being blurred, or maybe your experiences that they are very clear cut? That could be very beneficial to the conversation as well. So please feel free to share your perspectives. So, as always, I am not here alone having a conversation with myself, although my many minds could probably have a conversation with myself. That's not as fun for me. So, I have a wonderful guest joining me here today. I'll let Julia introduce her in just introduce herself in just a moment. But I'm really excited about, so we have me from a marketing lens, Julia from a sales lens. Both of us have been trained in a social selling methodology, which is kind of a line blurrer of sales and marketing. For good, for bad, we're going to talk about it today. But we've actually been trained in the same methodology, but one from a marketing perspective and one from a sales perspective. So I'm really excited to bring all of that together into the conversation. So before we get kicked off, Julia, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And actually, let's learn about you, and then what are some of the blurred lines that you are seeing in sales and marketing these days?
Yeah, hi for having, and thank you for having me here. And what do you want exactly to know about me? What would you like me to highlight?
What would you like us to know? You have sales background. Some of that's been easy. Maybe some of it hasn't been so easy. But yeah, just kind of your 1 minute overview of the awesomeness of Julia.
That sounds amazing. So I'm Julia. I'm Ukrainian. I live in the Netherlands right now. I've been in sales for the last almost 6 years in different roles. I like cycling and art and playing guitar. Speaking of the blur that I noticed, like I think everyone can say that the market these days is crazy, right? And it's not only about selling, but also about hiring and other stuff. So I would say that with the market that is right now, we notice that it's impossible to sell the way that we used to. And this is where I notice the huge blur. We even can see that there are not only like sales and marketing departments in the companies, but go-to-market departments who work together, sales and marketing.
Yeah. And I actually, if you're watching the show and you are a go-to-market expert, I would love to hear any of your thoughts that make this blur between sales and marketing actually work, because I do know that is one of the deliverables of go-to-market strategy, is that kind of sales, marketing, client service, anybody who touches a client or a potential client work together to create this go-to-market. So if you are an expert, happen to be watching, love to hear your expertise related to that. But I think this is so true. And Julia, do you think there's anything specific about the industry that has said, like, now is the time that these this blurring of the lines is happening? Is it like a because I do know a lot of us now are marketing and or selling technical solutions, which 10 years ago probably wasn't true. Definitely 20 years ago wasn't true. And or the opportunity for like connections and conversations to happen digitally. Is there something in specific that you've experienced that has made this real for you?
It's a great question, Tracy. I think that the most important thing that triggered myself looking into this topic was that I was that bad at selling that I thought that the problem is in me. And I was even hesitating, like, what I'm doing wrong. And I finished several courses and attended a lot of stuff. And there I realized that it's not about me, thanks God, but not about only the market. It's about the way how people build relationship and build trust. It's not about market and companies trying to sell something. In my opinion, it's about human conversation that we feel a lack of. We have AI, we have chats, we have everything, but the human connection happens in sales a lot. And I mean, during the calls, right? And people lack this, yeah, being honest, being clean, yeah, sincerity.
Yeah.
Saying that correctly.
Yeah, well, sincerity really makes a lot of sense. And I would say, too, that even from a marketing perspective, I don't know that sincerity has been like the highest deliverable for a lot of people from a marketing perspective. And that is not 100% the case true, but I mean, if we look at a lot of the ads and everything that we see, or especially some of the interactions that people are having in the digital environment from a marketing perspective, these are not about sincerity, right? They're about volume. They're about being to the point, right? Like, I just want to get to the point. And if you have this need, then I have what you need. And like, I mean, like, one, I have like 100 people telling me that for any one given solution. So why would I choose you over someone else? Also, then like, I have this problem. Pricing is still a marketing thing, right? And all you're doing is turning this into a race to the bottom, right? Like, so now we don't compete on anything but price. Just all look the same. And so we have to compete on price. That's the only thing we're left to compete on. This is a race to the bottom is never an industry I want to participate in. Who can sell the cheapest corn, right? Like, I don't want to play that game. Although I will buy the cheapest corn. Although actually I will not. I will buy Tabor corn because it is local and delicious. But that also indicates to you something about my buying habits, which has everything to do with marketing, but not the conversation we're here to have today. But like, Julia, I'd love to hear so primarily your work is in sales, or like would have been like coded as sales historically. What are some of the places where you see either you interacting more with marketing or even like crossing lines in terms of efforts that people are having?
It's a great question. So if answering that using my experience and where I've been before, I would say that. So I started as a beautician, and I had the trademark that I represented. I had my school back in Kharkov, and here at that point I thought that my business wouldn't be existing actually, because without marketing, because if, let's say, excuse me, they wouldn't do all the ads, all the posts, all the things building the brand, I wouldn't be that successful and that yeah, let's say not famous, but famous in the place where marketing wanted me to be.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so like from that, and now your experience in direct sales, right? How does that, like in what you're selling now or what you have sold in the past a little bit, like does that feel different when you have like a dedicated sales team? Because I do feel like maybe, and you can clarify this because it's your personal experience, but as a hair, as a stylist, right? Like you have the big brand name, and there are people who want the brand name, and so you get the local work that's associated with that. But to some degree, you also build your own personal brand, but it is through the client experience then, right? It's in people liking their haircut, it's in people liking the conversation, it's about that interaction. So you have kind of the marketing doing some of it, and then you have the client experience doing some of it, but not as much direct sales unless you happen to be out there networking and being like, oh, I'm a stylist, to like come and see me. But in like B2B tech, for example, a lot of organizations are focusing just on like outbound sales and not necessarily the other two as well. So again, just like your own experience, would love to hear like the complexities in focusing on one or combining multiples, or like what's going on here.
I got your question. So to clarify the answer that I gave you before, it was the trademark with a school. I had a huge school, and I had a sales representative people going and to the beauty salon. So it was not only me doing something. It was like
Right.
the huge. It was B2C mostly, but B2B in some time, not tech. And providing this experience shows that it's not about tech only. It's
Right.
more wider than we think. But speaking of the tech experience, I've been in a company, and at that time, I think it was like 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I started there, and their sales tactic was to do outbound, as you say. And the result at that time, what was it was impressive for me, because the cold outreach, sending cold outbound emails without any personalization and relevance, worked well. People were interested. There were not so many things there, or not every smallest tech company started building outbound. And at that time, it was successful. I think what's interesting to mention here is that I noticed the big shift, and where this blur was even more blurred, happening after COVID. So the market changed. I think it it's not it's never still and safe and sound, and you can say it's stable, never. But the huge shift where the like sales representatives and leaders realized that the way they've been working before doesn't work anymore, happened after COVID. And at that time, companies started struggling. Why do you think? And do you think it's a topic that we could think of, or is it nonsense?
No, and I think that's interesting too, because I would say that this was also the point where a lot of historical marketing efforts that worked for years stopped working as well. And so cold email, one of the things, but also like trade shows, right? A lot of people's marketing programs were dependent on in-person trade shows. And then during COVID, there were no trade shows. And so all of a sudden people were like, well, like what do I do? How do I create this experience of my brand and not in person? And so the natural thing to do with the technology that we had was for everything to go online, right? So now marketing departments say like, well, I can use digital ads, I can build a network on LinkedIn, I could build a group on LinkedIn, I could build a group on Facebook, I could do a bunch of these things, so they're all digital. And salespeople simultaneously were like, oh, hey, we can't go network in person anymore, but we can network on LinkedIn. So let's go and network on LinkedIn. So now sales and marketing who might have been doing their own things separately now are all in the same space, but still doing their own things, right? So sales doesn't necessarily know what marketing is doing, and marketing doesn't necessarily know what sales is doing. And so now, instead of actually hitting two areas, right? I got a salesperson out seeing people in person, and I've got marketers going to this trade show, which theoretically that's two different groups of people. Historically, now I've put them all in the same spot, and I'm hitting the same group of people. And so there's the opportunity there for our efforts to cannibalize each other, because unless we know how we're working together, we're probably not working together. We're creating more opportunities for the brand experience to be broken. And so, like, from the sales perspective, Julia, what has been your experience of that? Is it something like you think about when you go out into the market? Is it something that like marketing teams need to be approaching sales with? What are your thoughts?
So it's a good one, and I completely agree with you that not sales and marketing are in the same place together, and this is the only way how it works right now. But an interesting thing that I don't think that the shift already has happened, that the market already and the companies, all the companies do like that, because they don't. At least the companies that I've worked for and I've been in contact with, they still saying like, okay, if we have a problem, there's not enough content or we don't have enough something, that's a marketing problem. And it's usually during the sales forecast, what happens in sales teams, sometimes they say the first thing that they say, marketing. We blame marketing because they don't do that. And right now, and marketing, sales, yeah, we do everything, but sales, they just don't close, right? And now there is no one to blame for the what happens in the company, like in terms of selling. I would say that right now I can see, at least in my company, that we work together a lot, and it's not only about creating content or organizing events that we are attending, but speaking of events, there is always someone from the marketing team. At least like last time we had a person from marketing team, and we want them participate to know what's really happening there, why they need to create certain content, or why we are asking them for these topics and that topics. And we see that as salespeople, we see that with our brains, right? We put our sales glasses, but my sales glasses won't work with your marketing eyes, right? And that's why you need to be there to understand what's going on there. And this is what's happening more and more and more, even with like outbound campaigns. Marketing is there to review campaigns and think of adding value there. It's not only sales responsibility. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, well, it continues the conversation, which is the point. But I think something that comes up for me when you share that then too is, I mean, I've been the marketing resource at trade shows. And a lot of times the marketing resource at trade shows becomes very responsible for execution and making sure the booth is up, making sure there's enough chairs, like making sure there's enough brochures, blah, blah, blah. And it becomes very transactional from a marketing perspective. We're not actually there to observe what is happening. So this is also an interesting piece to talk about in terms of intentions, because we can put our sales and marketing people into a trade show booth together, but unless we know what the resources are there to do, right? So sales is there to sell. That's probably pretty clear. But what is my job as a marketer at this trade show? Is my job to sell? Because I'm a marketer. There's a lot of marketers who are very uncomfortable with selling, which is a conversation for a different show, but because I don't think it's helpful. But it's like they don't want to do that. But a lot, and I will say again, like when I was a young marketer, first time I was at a show, I'm like, am I supposed to sell something? Or like, And I suppose I even had a boss tell me, like, you need to bring back 10 business cards. Okay, like 10 business cards of people who are going to buy something, or just 10 business, because I can get 10 business cards. Right? Like, that's not a problem. But this is a really interesting thing too. And I think this is something that has come up in more ways than just like sales and marketing. But I think we used to think that by putting people into the same space, co-learning and like relationship building would by nature happen. But I mean, again, I've been the marketing resource in a booth with a whole bunch of salespeople, and the salespeople go out and sell stuff. And now there's 4 of you having conversations. I can't keep track of 4 conversations. And then so like my job just ends up being, you're the one responsible for putting all of this information into the CRM. And you're like, but that's not meaningful, particularly, right? And so like, what can I do with a marketer's glasses in this environment? Like, what can I look for? Can I look for content? Right? Like, so what am I hearing people say? This is like a content building exercise. So we're going to put together a repository of the articles we could write or posts we could post in order to like do that. What are the questions that come up? Go and see some of the other like panel conversations that are happening at the conference. Like, what are people talking about? Because I mean, again, I don't know about you, but I've also been stuck at a booth for 3 days, right? There's all these other things happening. I can't even go and like see what other booths are there or who's talking to who or who is saying what, like keynotes for like Wayne Gretzky that I don't get to see because like I have to sit here at this booth. So like looking at those things holistically, but I think this is a really great example because if we take this idea of like a trade show booth and we put it online, right? Okay, you got marketers at your online trade show booth. Now you've got salespeople, probably multiple of them, at your online trade show booth. What are they doing? And how are they doing it? Right? Are you having conversations at the booth with people, right? Which should theoretically be like a salesperson who's having a conversation with a potential lead on the company page of LinkedIn? Or are all the salespeople going out and having one-on-one conversations and me at the marketing booth? I don't know anything about the conversations that you're having, which is probably more likely in the digital environment. Then like, how do I support that? Right? Can I support that? How do I work with my salespeople to get the insights from that? Because I'm not getting the specific insights. Sure, you can put stuff into a CRM, but we all know people are going to put the smallest amount of information into the CRM as possible. If the CRM is not asking the right questions, you're not going to collect the right data. Blah, blah. There's lots of problems with that. But like, I think this is an interesting exercise to ask ourselves to be like, okay, yeah, our LinkedIn company page is our trade show booth. People might come to it, but like, how are people going to come to it? Are we going to just cross our fingers and hope people walk by? Am I going to go out and have conversations at the lunch tables to like bring people to the booth, right? Or do we have a speaking gig where we will attract people to the booth? Like, street traffic is one thing, but we all scroll in the digital environment, and the street traffic is insane. Okay? So if you could have a lot of street traffic and nobody noticed that they even walked by you. So anyway, these are just some of the things my brain is saying. Like, this is kind of a fun exercise. If that's a trade show and that's our focus, right? Like, we're going to build this digital brand, then like, what does that look like from a digital trade show booth perspective?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think like with the live events, a lot of companies, they started to understand that selling on that trade shows is almost impossible. At least with my experience, it's hard. Every company has ICP, right? And every company has like the not only ICP, but the companies that they are aiming to get, like ICP with a
target companies.
Star. Yeah, but like the top companies. And what are the chances that you meet your ICP there, not even mentioning that you will meet that company there.
Right.
Chances are high. And aligning that with LinkedIn and like virtual booth, you can get people from the company to your, let's say, LinkedIn community, right?
Mhm.
You can start mentioning them. You can tell about yourself. You can build your not only brand, but show that you're a person with a story and with life. And not only speaking about the how I closed 200 deals in 5 minutes during the successful cold call.
Yeah.
I hate when I see that on LinkedIn. It's just, I think, yeah, but it's the topic for another conversation. But you can invite people there, right? You can start mentioning people in comments, inviting them, asking them questions there without paying $1 billion for the booth, the flights, the hotel, the team, and we can count and count. Like, it's a huge amount of money that people spend for ads. But
Right.
would you really meet the companies you're aiming for there? It's a great question. And this is something that marketing and sales, at least in my company now, and I see that more and more starting working together with understanding that not only taking pictures and posting that on website and reposting the posts that your colleague made will work, right? No, I scroll.
Reposting the corporate post. We'll just get all of our
No.
sales people to repost the corporate post.
Yes, and also developers and support, just in
Without
case.
any framework as to why they're reposting
No,
it. Just repost it
no.
because that's our
Yeah.
social media
Go,
strategy.
go. And I'm not talking about that, but building and telling your story helps. For me, like as a salesperson working in my company right now, it builds not only my personal brand but company's brand, and of course company. I'm not promoting anything there. I'm just telling about myself. But when I decide to move forward to another company, this will stay with me.
Mhm.
And this is, I think, one of the most important parts. You can get experience, you can get skills, but having that on your LinkedIn page that is warmed up, full of content, for me it feels the same like building the in 90s, like buying the base with the phone numbers, and they worked that time. It feels almost the same because you have 10K connections or 2K connections already there. And if you know how to build relationship on LinkedIn with people, not selling them anything, then in a long run you win.
Well, and I think, this is the interesting thing for both sales and marketing, maybe more so for sales than marketing. But I do think that this concept of promoting something is like kind of our job. Right? Like as a salesperson, you're hired to sell stuff, right? And from a marketing perspective, the reason why we even have resources to do that is to promote something. But I think we get short-sighted on what the something is. Okay? Because from a social selling perspective, I'm promoting myself as a human. This is who I am as a human. You might like it, you might not like it, but regardless, this is who I am. And it reflects a specific way in front of the organizations that I am associated with. And some people, I had a like really great conversation with a new contact today who was like very clear, I'm trying to understand your vibe. And I was like, I, of all people, appreciate that, right? Because I vibe with certain people and I don't vibe with other people. Yes, I know. Yay. People are getting it finally. But it's not to promote my product or my services, but it is to promote me and the value that a relationship with me could have for you. And whether that relationship is we have a LinkedIn Live conversation or we have a private Zoom conversation that adds. I had a conversation with a new contact earlier today that was primarily about like personal relationships and the challenges with that and how we evolve them and how we stay honest to each other, right? Like, did I know I was going to have that conversation today? Nope. But I'm glad I did because I think that was the value I could add to that human today. And the value that humans can add to humans in any given scenario is empowered by taking off the limitation of I'm only allowed to talk about this product and say like, hey, I'm a person, you're a person. We have this in common. Let's chat about it and see where it goes.
Yeah. It's a great point. And I was thinking in the background about promotion and promoting something. I mean, right? Like, I don't think that you're promoting yourself on LinkedIn. In my opinion, selling is no more about promotion. We have so many promotions like everywhere. Just look around. But with social selling, you're educating. You can sell in this market only if you know how to educate. And with social selling, with your personal LinkedIn page, you educate people about yourself, because now you can be promoting, I don't know, this bottle, or in the other company you will be selling let's say the software. And even talking about those things doesn't mean that they're actually you're promoting and this helps you selling. Only through education. And with LinkedIn page, you educate people who you are, what's your background, and they build a bit your picture. And yes, you show only what you want to show. That's true. But you help them be educated about you and what they will get when they get a call with you. Because if I would receive, let's say, a message from a person with no information on their LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm extending my network, let's chat. No. I'm a girl. Yes, I'm a woman on LinkedIn. I don't want to speak with no face person on LinkedIn. But if I see what they do, why they do that, what are their why they are there, and I understand a bit more. And if I show something, the topics that I cover tell about me more than the content that I'm posting. So in addition to that, promoting is something we need to do. Of course, everyone needs to know our name, but how easy it is to promote and build the company brand these days. How many tools do we have? How many resources do we have? Does the company have the capacity to spend all that money to be promoted on 3 platforms? But we don't know whether the company we are targeting are going there. We have some tools that help us understand, but still.
Well, and I think one of the things that I think a lot of people miss in that, because I hear this all the time from the marketing perspective, where are my clients? I'll be on whatever platform my clients are on. There's like 2 billion people on Facebook. There's like almost 1 billion, if not 1 billion people on LinkedIn, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty sure you could find some of your people within that 1 billion if you were really trying to. But the point is that like people are everywhere, right? There's people to be found. And one of the things from a platform perspective that I actually love from this concept of like blurring sales and marketing lines, if you have a sales rep who really loves Instagram, but another sales rep who really loves LinkedIn, let them go to town, right? Because now you're building your brand on both of those, and marketing didn't even have to do anything. We didn't have to learn everything about how to post on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. We're just letting our people do what feels in alignment with them. But then this can also contribute to the blurring of the lines, right? So now you say you have a sales rep who's very into LinkedIn, very actively selling on LinkedIn. And now you have a marketing team that's responsible for maintaining this corporate persona, the corporate page, right? What is the company talking about? And again, I think we all know that people build relationships with people faster than they build relationships with companies. And if you build a relationship with companies, probably because you have enough interactions with the people that are representing that company that you then roll that brand experience up to the company level. It's the reason why, like, when people, like, I've had friends who are sales reps and they work for a company, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's like, totally support this company you're working for. And then they move to a different company. I'm like, well, I actually liked you. I feel like the company is meh, right? So like, you went over there, then I'm going to go over there. And people try and put like non-compete things in contracts and stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm the consumer. I will choose to buy the way I choose to buy. And if I choose to buy based on the personality of the salesperson, then I'm going to go where the salesperson goes, or the customer service rep, or what have you, right? Usually people don't have that kind of relationship with marketers, which makes me sad, because they could have that type of relationship with marketers. But again, that's topic for another show. But when we have these multi conversations, then, like, so you've got your sales conversations, or how you are educating people about yourself, and then I have the quote unquote corporate version of how we're educating the market about our product. Those two activities might not be in alignment. There might be people who enjoy one of those that don't enjoy the other version. And so again, this kind of comes back to, where do we create potential breakpoints in the brand experience when we don't have an overarching goal or an overarching vision of what sales and marketing looks like living together in harmony? Because it's more complex than just saying the marketing is going to post a corporate post and all the salespeople are going to share it. What if I post a corporate post that you don't like? Why would you share it? That's a terrible plan. But also, as a marketer, wouldn't I want to know that my sales team is not sharing this, and for what reason my sales team is not sharing it? Like, these are not the conversations they are having. This is not it's not appropriate for the part of the buying process that a client is in, or what again, many decisions that marketing makes that may add value to sales or doesn't add value to sales. But if we don't recognize that when we put these efforts to work in the same space, that we need to make sure that they're not hurting each other, they're actually helping each other, there's different questions that we need to ask to make that work.
That's true. And I think, first of all, and it's obvious that there should be alignment, and this alignment should be not only about posting something.
Right.
It's about covering the topic. So what we would like to educate our customers about. What is the topic that we would like them to dig into, right? And this is how it should happen. And the topic, with my experience and my glasses of the past, I can share my experience, and this will be with not technical language. It still will be valuable for other people. And we also have 3 different salesperson in our team, and those salespersons, they can post based on their experience. But marketing, they do their thing how they know how to do it. It also, I'm trying to agree with your points about the
This show isn't
wasting
just about
time.
agreeing, by the way. This is a
I know.
show for conversation.
So you want me to disagree with you right now?
If you actually disagree. I mean, you don't need to create fake disagreement, but if
No.
this is the thing, right? Like everyone has a different experience, and sometimes there's opportunities for us to change our mind because someone else has a different experience than us. So please don't just try to agree. If you have something that is like nagging at you, let's talk about it.
No, I would be happy to. I'm a very like straight to the point person. Living in the Netherlands, you won't survive without that. So if I disagree, I disagree. But there's nothing I can disagree about. It's just I see how it works in my company and what we've started doing together with marketing and what results we're having. And after a year working like that, we have our meetings. Marketing joins the sales calls. We also have listening. We listen to the part of the call, and then we think together as a team. Let's say go-to-market team. What content and what steps will be there. So I can't imagine with the market and the companies and the economics and everything what's going on, how it is possible to sell without building relationship, your brand, but also if I'm a salesperson, as you said, I want people to like me first and not my company. And being honest and telling the things that you want to tell makes that effort and it actually gives in the long run relationships that you can take from one company to another company.
And
do you see that as well?
Oh, absolutely. And again, like it makes me sad. And one of the reasons I was so excited about like social selling for marketers is that historically that is not the case for marketers. So while for sales, I think it's always been, while we might not have all of the digital narrative about it, I think at the end of the day, sales has always been about people and getting to know people and helping people. And marketing, I think, started that way, but I think in the past like 40, 50 years with the advent of advertising and then the advent of the internet and then digital and now social media platforms, marketers are getting farther and farther away from people. And so then like I was going to say one of two things, but I think predominantly one thing happens is we say being with the people is sales job. And marketing will be over here behind the scenes. We might create stuff for sales, but we are not interacting directly with clients. Except you are, because people are having an experience of your website. People are having an experience of a social media post. People are having an experience of me as a marketer at a trade show, at the trade show booth, right? And their experience might be what is that like? Weird quiet person doing over there, right? Like, which may be helpful or may not be helpful, but like experiences are happening for marketers. And so this is too where I think social selling becomes interesting, because as a marketer, my experience of the concept of social selling, which is like what you shared, Julia, is educating people about your brand and like creating an opportunity for people to like be with you as a person in order to like move them towards or move them away from a potential sale based on where they are at. In my brain says that's a marketer's job, right? To like build connections with the people so that we can move them closer to us or farther away from us. Like that is a marketer's job. And so a lot of the tools in our toolbox have not been serving that purpose to that degree. But then also mindsets like, even we talked about earlier, right? Like you will brainstorm with marketing content, then marketing will generate content. Well, if that idea was originated by a salesperson, then why doesn't the salesperson generate the content and own the content and own the thought leadership that is associated with that? Because I do think there's a lot in marketing that is still, like, I would call it policing the brand. Right? So we might brainstorm as a group, but marketing is going to control what goes out. And I mean, that may or may not allow your idea to be fully flourishing in the market, because now it's gone through the filter of the marketing department. And if I'm not as jazzed about the concept as you are, that doesn't add to our thought leadership the way it could add to our thought leadership. Now, then we also have to talk about, well, like, what are the role or the activities that people are doing as part of this? Because now if we have salespeople out there creating content, and we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of that from a corporate brand building perspective, how do we monitor for that? How do we encourage that, right? How do we pump up our salespeople as thought leaders in the space from a marketing perspective? How do we create marketers who are thought leaders, or even technical people who are thought leaders, and allow that massive thought leadership to roll up to the brand level? Well, now we're saying, hey, marketing, you're not responsible for content creation. You can do content creation, but we also encourage everybody to do content creation. And we hire sales reps who are experts in this arena, and we want the world to know that our salespeople are experts in this arena. So we need to create ways for them to build their thought leadership. And also, what does that look like, right? If you're a salesperson and you're making, I don't know, I thought 125 calls a week was a lot, but now I know people who like 1,000 calls a week, and I'm just like, this is crazy to me. Depends on what you're selling and how big the ticket is. But like, if you're doing that, then like, how am I supposed to expect a salesperson to have time to write an article? Or how do I even expect them to be able to listen enough to the degree where they can pick out the patterns of what they're hearing in their client base and even tell marketing that this is a theme that we're hearing, right? If everybody's just moving so fast to just like do things, then all of a sudden we have created an environment where we can't even work together, even if we wanted to. And then that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
So
I'm
full of all the complexities. There's no answers on this show.
No.
Just thoughts.
Just thoughts. That's true. Yeah. I was trying to put like let's say the company 10 years ago, starting doing things and saying to marketing and sales that they all need to create content. Can you imagine the reaction of salespeople that need not only to talk to people, but also go and write something and think about your writing and then rewrite it 3 times? Because that's how they do that.
I had a salesperson I worked with who would take like I would probably spend like an hour writing a blog post. He would spend like 3 days. That's a lot of calls you didn't make because you spent 3 days writing a blog post. So that's probably not more helpful. But then is this also heavily dependent on the individual resources?
Yeah, I think it's not only about individuals, but about them as well. If I'm a developer and you say to me, hey, go and talk to people, right, why would I? And I'm not that kind of person. I'm comfortable sitting here with talking to my computer. But with the great and strong leadership and education, I can see that how this can be possible. Let's imagine that you join the company where they have go-to-market team, and they have marketing and sales there, and you join the team, and you start your onboarding process with education and social selling, why it is important, and why you, or as a sales or marketing person, need to attend sales calls, but also write content and go to the events, talking to people. And when you get that education, it all of a sudden starts having a great value, because it's something that has the story, success story behind that, right? How that worked, why it is valuable, why you need that. And all of a sudden you feel that you're not only writing a blog post,
Right.
but you do much more things, not only for a company, but yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting because really what I'm feeling this is rolling up to is this is not about saying like write a blog post or write a social post or make a call or any of the like individual activities we might associate with marketing or sales, but it is that roll up of like, why are we here as a company? And you have your role in that and I have my role in that. And how can I own my role in that? How can I say like one of the experiences I always have is a past company that I worked for. We were exploring like new things to try with marketing, and I love interviewing people, okay? As is evident in the show and the fact that I think we're on episode 35. But like my CEO wouldn't let me try that as a mechanism because that wasn't, marketing was supposed to be behind the scenes. Right? Marketing, it wasn't supposed to be like, we're supposed to coordinate the trade shows and do all the things. And I'm supposed to show up on the website as the VP of marketing. Like I have all this expertise, but I'm not allowed to share it anywhere. So like one, why would anybody believe that I have, like I do have that expertise, but I'm not allowed to share it with anybody. So why would anyone else believe that that is true? You can't really sell me as a senior marketing resource on a project if you won't let me look like a senior marketing resource. People are only going to want to ever pay me to be a junior marketing resource because they can't see the value that I can add. And that one was always really one of my like personal driving factors behind building my personal brand when I left, is that like I have a lot of knowledge. I have a lot of value to share with people. And I don't want that to be dependent on the company I work for. I don't want that to be held hostage behind someone else's brand. I want that to be the Tracy Borison brand. And that if I say this to people all the time, like if you have me in a conversation and you ask me a question, I will give you all of my thoughts, and there will be a lot of them probably. And hopefully some of them are useful to you. But then you can see, like, do you, what of that do you agree with? What of that do you not agree with? And either move forward or move backward in a relationship building process with me as a human. And then if I'm representing a brand, then just all the better for the brand, because now I'm the senior. At one point, I was the senior vice president of customer success. Don't you want that person, the market, to believe that this person has no desire for any client to ever fail at this? And like, we will do all of the things to make this work. And here I am telling you things that will help you to make it work. And like all of that, like, I would think that we want that. And when we are saying like, this is sales, and you keep this in sales, and this is marketing, and you keep this in marketing, but all of a sudden we throw all of those resources, and I'll even put customer success into that category too, because now you're probably having mostly digital actions with your people, whether it is a chat or an online knowledge forum or virtual calls. Okay? You're having a virtual experience with your client success. So now that adds to the brand experience or takes away from the brand experience as well. And unless I would say, look at and intentionally create our own overlap, our own connection between the departments, then what the market is going to see is a bunch of blurred lines that they can't understand.
Yeah, that's That's 100% something that occurred to me as well. And thinking about this category, I don't think about that like during my day,
Right.
but when you start digging into the topic, it gives interesting perspective of, but why developers shouldn't be posting?
Well, and
Why
I
only
think this is
sales
the
and
thing too,
marketing?
right? Like, I think this is a permission-based activity, right?
Yes,
Like,
true.
will that mean that all salespeople want to post? Probably not. Or all marketers, or all developers, or all client success representatives? No. But when you are someone like me in my old role who one is personally that invested in somebody's success, and two is not afraid, like I've been in Toastmasters for years, but like I'm not afraid of public speaking. I'm not afraid to show up and be helpful to people, and have resources like that internally. Turn them on, right?
Yeah.
Like allow
Yeah.
them to share that. And if you have somebody in engineering who's writing a bunch of these like phenomenal, like they do a bunch of research and then they write these phenomenal research papers, like take that and share it with the market, right? Like, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be that guy who has to know all the social media sharing processes and things like that. But if what he wrote adds value to your industry in the way your company's story is to add value to your industry, then it makes sense, at least from my perspective, to share that digitally, because people are finding you digitally. People are experiencing your salespeople digitally. And now you're just saying, like, hey, salespeople, here's another resource that you can use to share with people as part of the sales process if it's relevant. And sure, there's like management of things and how do you store the resources so that people can access them and all the things. But at the end of the day, the point is that we have a culture of being thought leaders, and we want to hire thought leaders. And how would that look different from a hiring perspective if you're hiring a thought leader as a sales rep instead of hiring the cheapest sales rep you can get, right? I mean, that's probably going to look a little bit different on your P&L than so. And this is, I'm not saying either way is wrong, but it's important to have clarity on why you're doing what you're doing. And
in every aspect of your life.
Yes, true. If more humans could just do this in every part of our days, it would probably a lot easier to go through life and business. And let's be honest, folks, it's just not a thing, right? It's something that none of us are going to be 100% effective at, probably our entire lives. But this is why I think that intention is so important, right? Is that if we have an intention, that doesn't mean we're going to deliver on it 100% of the time. But if it is something that is so authentic to who we are as an individual and a business, it's going to be a lot easier to come back to it, especially after failure, if you know why you're doing it. And when it comes to like most businesses, once you get to a certain size, are going to have sales and marketing, right? So how are they interacting together? And then if you're in the building stages right now, this is a question you get to ask yourself now. How do I want to construct this so it makes sense as we continue to build, instead of going back and trying to fix a whole bunch of things 10 years from now that didn't work in year one? Let's map it out with our intention of making sure that the lines are not blurred, the lines are very clear, and everybody is on the train together so we can win. Oh, so good. See, you guys, Julia was concerned she would have nothing to say on this episode. And you said so many awesome things. Julia, if people are interested in learning more about you, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
On LinkedIn. I'm online. Just message me. I'd be happy to connect and have a chat.
Yes,
thank you.
You never know, you might get her on your show because now she's been on and it's not as scary as it sounds, right?
Yes, thank you.
Julia, thanks so much for sharing all your insight today. Just for those of you who might be interested in the social selling and influence program that Julia and I have both been through, we have both been through it. It's a company called DLA Ignite. Either of us would be happy to give you more information on that program, whether you are in sales or you are in marketing, and how that can benefit your ability to build a brand and build thought leadership through social selling. So please feel free to reach out to either one of us in that scenario. And we didn't have a lot of people in the chat. By not a lot, I mean we have Dan Roth, who is singing Canada, oh Canada, but thank you. Always good to see you, my friend. But for those of you who are watching who are not in the chat, if there's more that you would like to explore in this concept of sales and marketing, blurred lines, whether you're experiencing those blurred lines and they're detrimental to your brand, or you're hoping to avoid having those blurred lines, I would love to have a conversation. Reach out to Julia as well, especially from the sales perspective, right? And let's stay in the conversation, because as I said, there's no answers on this show. There's only questions, but questions that you can try on for yourself to figure out what is right for you. And how can you build on these marketing foundations so that you're going to where you want to go, instead of those people going to where they want to go, which might not be the same destination. So with that, my friends, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. And until next time, permission to do you. Bye-bye.
Bye.